It's your boy Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, no gimmicks. And one of the things I wanted to discuss today was our 2018 losses. I'm a firm believer that if we gotta move forward and we gotta improve, we gotta peel back that Band-Aid and take one last look at all the ugly shit that we saw last year. I'm not gonna chalk it all up to injuries because everybody's injured and other teams ain't gonna give us excuses like that. I understand that we lost 2 Pro Bowlers and we lost obviously Rico Allen, but we can't use that as an excuse for the season because when I went back and watched the video, there was a lot of games that we should have won even with a depleted defense. And so I'm gonna go over every single game that we lost, and I wrote, because I went back and I watched all the full highlights of each game that we lost, and I wrote down notes on each of them and what I saw, what can be fixed, and if we still have questions moving forward. So without further ado, week 1, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on because it was injury city. Obviously, that was the game where Deion Jones and Keanu Neal went out with injuries. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time discussing that. What I can say is that our offensive line once again got pushed around by the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, obviously, that's a credit to the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line. They have a very big, strong, ferocious defensive line, but we should be able to at least get some types of pushes, every once in a while. We couldn't get anything, and that's what made Julio Jones' final pass in the end zone incomplete. It was just predictable. People saw it coming because we had no run game, so why would the Eagles respect our run to the end zone? Moving on, week 3 versus the New Orleans Saints. One of the main notes I wrote down was we were checked down to death. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute. There's this misnomer that the Saints are so dangerous because Drew Brees spreads it around and he's slicing and dicing with Michael Thomas and other players. And that's not the case when we play them. They actually don't go over the top of our heads very often. Every time the Saints beat us, they check us down to death. Drew Brees is a very smart quarterback. He's going to take what the defense gives him. So when we play in these soft-ass zones, Drew Brees was just dumping it down to tight ends and backs the entire game. And which is okay because if you can stop them, obviously on third down, then we get off the field. But the problem is we missed tons of tackles. And that's what I saw consistently throughout this entire game. Another thing I saw was that Taysom Hill, apparently we didn't know when Taysom Hill was in the game. I understand he's also white and he wears a similar color to Drew Brees, but I mean, come on now. He looks way thicker than Drew Brees. He looks taller than Drew Brees, and he's clearly running. Every time Taysom Hill had the ball, I was screaming at the TV, he's going to run the ball. Taysom Hill would never stop and drop back. He would never read the field or look for receivers. Taysom Hill, every time he took a snap, he was trying to run the ball. And for some reason, the Falcons didn't realize this the entire season. 2 times we played them, and he hurt us all game long. And obviously, towards the end, Drew Brees broke 2 of our defenders' tackles running the football to score a touchdown. That is totally unacceptable. I don't care who's on our defense. I don't give a fuck if it's a 6-stringer off his couch sitting on his ass. Drew Brees should not be able to break 2 NFL defenders to score a touchdown. So missing tackles. We got to fix that. Obviously, it's going to be a little improved with Deion Jones back and Keanu Neal back, but we can't make those excuses. What if they get hurt again? Or what if backups come in because they're tired? We need people who can tackle. The pros of that game, though, I took out was Calvin Ridley dominated the New Orleans Saints. He scored 3 touchdowns. Matt Ryan was accurate and perfect on his deep passes all game long. And that game pissed me off. We should have won that game. We scored tons of points. Our defense just failed us. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so pissed off that we didn't go defense. But we'll get to that in a second. Week 4, we played the Bengals. And I call this the Robert Alford is trash game. Robert Alford was blowing coverages all game long. And this is where I posed a question to Falcons Nation. can Isaiah Oliver take over Robert Alford's spot and not make the same mistakes that he made? What I wrote down. We had a lot of missed assignments. Guys were out of their places a lot. It seemed like we weren't really focused during this game. One of the pros I took away was that Edo Smith ran the ball well. He showed versatility in his cutbacks. He caught the ball at the backfield. He seems to lack the speed that Tevin Coleman has, but it seems he makes up for it with toughness and ability to break tackles. Matt Ryan also spread the ball around a lot to running backs and tight ends. Like even Logan Paulson had a touchdown, so that's good as well. And obviously we lost this game because this is the con coming up that is might affect us in 2019. Isaiah Oliver, he got caught looking in the flat, and he let A.J. Green run right by him for the game-winning touchdown. This is a problem because I've noticed that one-on-one Isaiah Oliver in man coverage is very good. He's very long and lengthy, and he can knock the balls out, and he pays attention. He gets his head around, and he looks back, which is a big deal. So I'm not worried about that. But when we get in zone coverage, I noticed that Isaiah Oliver tends to get lost. He peeks in the backfield, and he lets guys run by him. So that's something we got to look at moving forward in our defenses. Week 5 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was I wish we had Christian Wilkins game, because there was zero run interior defense. We were getting gashed up the middle by James Conner all game long. He got anything he wanted on the ground that game. So this is where I posed the question to Falcons Nation. Can Tyler Davidson help in the interior? He did get a good grade from Pro Football Focus. And so hopefully he can fix that. Here's another time where Robert Alford got owned by an NFL starting #1 receiver. Obviously, he got owned by Juju, and he got owned by Antonio Brown. So I'm so glad we got rid of him. And this is the game also where I concede the point that maybe it was a good idea to get Lindstrom and Caleb in the first round, because Matt Ryan had zero protection on third downs. Every time we had a third down, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 2, 3rd and long, Matt Ryan was seeing 3 guys in his face getting put on the ground. I mean, there was so many times where he looked up, and the moment he looked up, there was a guy in his face, and he just sat down. He didn't even look. The only pro I had out this game was that Devontae Freeman ran hard. But maybe that's a con, because every time he runs hard, he gets injured. Moving on. Week 10 versus the Cleveland Browns. Another time where third down pass protection was bad. I'm sure y'all know that we got swept by the AFC North, which is pretty embarrassing. So I don't know what it is, but we couldn't handle them at all. Once again, Robert Alford got owned one-on-one in man coverage. No interior run defense once again. Runs right up the middle. Obviously, Nick Chubb had that, I think it was 92-yard touchdown run against us, right up the gut. Soft zones all game long. I believe this is where I started to notice why Marquand Manuel got fired, because we stopped being aggressive in the 3rd and 4th quarter. We were trying not to give up leads, and guys would just check down the ball, check at the running backs, and just kill us the rest of the game to get back in the game. So I posed a question for Falcons Nation on this game. Can Dan Quinn be aggressive like he said he's going to be? And will we see an improvement in our aggression and coming out of the zones? Or do you think that we still should stay in zones? I don't believe we shouldn't. So and also I saw that running backs catching a lot of touchdowns on us, which is another problem that we continue to have. Obviously, it would help if Deion Jones was in the game. He's so much better at covering running backs coming out of the backfield. But we can't have that excuse. We got to be better at tackling when running backs catch the football. Week 11 versus the Dallas Cowboys. I'm pissed off. We should have won this game. This game screamed another time, 0 pass rush. Obviously, Dallas Cowboys have an amazing offensive line, so we got to give them credit for that. But Dak had way too much time. I mean, that motherfucker was back there making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I mean, that's how much time that man had. So 0 pass rush. Just like the Saints game, we were screened to death. Run defense was bad. Zeke got whatever he wanted. Every time we had a screen, they cleared out our entire defensive line, and Zeke was just running wild. We settled for field goals all game long. I'm not concerned about this because we were a high-powered offense, and most of our losses, we didn't settle for field goals, but this one we settled for 4 field goals, no touchdowns until towards the end. Dallas's offensive line owned us. With all that said, it was a close loss. They got the last-second field goal, and we lost 22-19. So it was tied all the way up. With all those mistakes, we still should have won that game with our banged-up defense. So there was no excuse for that game. We still should have won that game, and we just lost. Week 12, the rematch versus the Saints. I saw the same ugly shit pop up in this game. The same bad run defense. They got whatever they want on the ground. The same checkdowns. This is our only blowout of the season. And Matt Ryan just had a bad game that game. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't get in the end zone. Week 13 versus the Ravens. Another game that we should have won. Lamar Miller was barely could throw this game. Vic Beasley had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. We were down, and then we regained the lead, and we blew it again. So we should have lost. We should have won this game. What I noticed though, broken tackles. Matt Ryan had no protection in this game or time to throw. I noticed Calvin Ridley drops started to become a trend. Calvin Ridley's amazing when he's wide open, great route runner, runs the routes, the whole route tree. But when he's in traffic, Calvin really struggles to hold on to the ball. So I hope he's worked on his strength, his hands. Catching in traffic is something he needs to work on. Trouble with rushing quarterbacks running the triple option. Lamar Jackson, my bad. Lamar Jackson, he would line up with 2 tight ends next to him or 2 backs next to him, and he would run a triple option, and we couldn't stop it to save our lives. And he did this on 3rd and short every time, and he would get the first down every time. I bring this up because obviously in this season we're going to have to play Kyler Murray, we're going to have to play Deshaun Watson, and we're going to have to play Marcus Mariota. So is this going to be an issue coming up? Do you think we're worried about it? Do you think we fixed our defense enough to worry about this? When we contained him and forced him to throw, Lamar Jackson had tons of sacks. He fumbled the ball a lot, and we got the ball out of his hands. So if we just force him to throw and don't fall for the magic show and the triple options and the fakes, then we should be fine against running quarterbacks. Week 14 against the Packers, it seemed that we were pretty just lifeless. It seemed like we weren't even trying. Robert Alford, this probably was his last game being a Falcons fan that Dan Quinn saw because he was also atrocious in this game as well. Devontae Adams just owned Robert Alford anytime he wanted to. Bad play calling, which I pose this question to Falcons Nation. It should be fixed with Dirk Cutter. I don't see any worries there. This game, it seemed, sealed Sarkisian's fate. We were just mediocre. Our plays were just bad. And hopefully we can fix that. I noticed throughout the whole season on our losses, we had a lot of dumb play calling. On 3rd and 1s, we were running wildcats with Mohamed Sanu, which were getting stopped. Short screens on 3rd and 1 to Ito Smith instead of running. It seemed that we were so afraid to run the football because we couldn't do it on short distances that we were trying every little gadget to get a first down, and we couldn't get it. So hopefully this is where that offensive line pays dividends. I also noticed that another Matt Ryan bad cold game outside. I pose this question to Falcons Nation because I know this year that we do not have any cold weather games to play in. The only outside games that we had to do later in the year is Jacksonville and the Niners, and those are both warm weather games. So my question is, if we do make it in the playoffs like we think we're going to, Is this another concern that's going to pop its head up again? What if we have to go to Philadelphia again? Is this going to be another concern? So that's something I posed to Falcons Nation. Hopefully we can fix those ills. What would fix that is a more balanced attack, run game, and better defense. So those are all the games. Some of the main things I take away from it is our run defense. Is it fixed? Can we fix it in time for the season? Our offensive line, is Lindstrom, Caleb, Carpenter, and Brown going to fix that part of our game? I'm confident Cutter's going to fix our problems with our play calling, so I'm not worried about that. Can Devontae Freeman stay healthy? And can Isaiah Oliver carry the load of being the replacement for Robert Alford? Those are the issues of 2018. Let's take this and throw it away and move on, because in 2019, we gonna rise up. That's what we do. All right, y'all. Peace.